Hi, I'm Dr. Ben Newman. I study coronaviruses for a living, and this is Ask Dr. Ben, where you ask questions and I do my best. I'm gonna try. Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Megan. How you doing, Megan? Yeah. Let's see. So the Washington Post, which yeah, all right, that's fine. The Washington Post is reputable. Yeah. Had an article stating how the expected high number of cases in schools hasn't materialized. Okay, there's a couple things going on here. One, schools are trying really hard to make sure that a high number doesn't get out. They're not taking very strong precautions to prevent infection. They're just taking very strong precautions to limit the number of cases that appear to be coming out. Yeah, based on what I have seen in this area and what I have heard from around the state of Texas, anyway. So I think you're in Ohio, and Ohio's in a little bit better shape than Texas. I think you have about average of 20 deaths a day, whereas Texas is sitting at about 75 and has been bouncing between kind of 70 and 100 deaths a day lately. Um, yeah. So let's see. And there, what has been coming out from schools is only information that's going into schools. Schools are generally not directly administering the tests for COVID 19. And so they only get data when people volunteer that data. And as any social scientist will tell you, if you got to wait for people to come forward and volunteer information, you're not going to get accurate or timely information. That's, yeah. So the way it's being done would lead us to suspect that there are fewer cases than there are. Now, people may also be getting tested, but in a couple of cases that I know from right around here, there are cases where, yeah, a student has caught this virus at school or seems to be the index case for the household. The entire household then gets it and then quarantines, but without ever testing or reporting that back to the school. And so just because a person quarantines doesn't mean the school is going to report that number, because people would say, oh, you're making the caseload sound higher than it is. But what we're doing instead is making the caseload sound a lot lower than it is. And so, yeah, I think that's where it's coming from. I don't think there is a lower number of cases in schools. I think we are not testing very well in children. And there's still this very bad, damaging idea that it's okay if kids get this virus because they will survive. And usually they don't die, but in children and young athletes and teens and 40-year-olds are the big studies I've seen. Everybody seems to get heart damage from this. You shouldn't think of this as something like the flu where you're going to get a little sniffle and then whatever, walk it off, yeah, with a little chicken soup, which does nothing, but it tastes nice and salty, so it's fine. Um, you should think of this as essentially a stroke that you can catch through the air. And that's really what COVID 19 does to the body. That's the most alarming, dangerous symptom, and it's one that we see in almost everybody. And the idea that you can walk off a little scar tissue in your heart, yeah, is not one that many people would automatically just assume would make sense. But that's what they're doing. So yeah. Okay, and then the last little bit of the question here is that, let's see, the school's at half capacity on a hybrid schedule with 6+ feet between everybody. That's okay, but there are studies now from buses and restaurants and hotels and houses and apartments that show that the virus will spread if you are in proximity to other people, even if you do not have direct contact. So it's definitely spreading through the air, and it spreads pretty widely to a lot of people when there is low airflow. And I don't know about the schools that you're talking about, but the schools that I went to were not known for their particularly high airflow within classrooms. What you want is apparently something on the order of about 10 liters per second per person. And if there's anything less than about 3 liters per second per person, that seems to be the point at which the really bad things are happening. So you still can be infected even in a 10 liter per second per person room. But it's not as likely. So yeah. And then the last bit of the question is at what community positivity rate per 100,000 cases should we feel comfortable? And earlier in the thing it says that the current positivity rate is about 3%. And like, oh my gosh, if you had a 3% rate of leprosy, if you had a 3% rate of AIDS, yeah, if you had a 3% rate of infectious heart attack / stroke, yeah, that would not be okay. That's not where we want to be. When China opened up and was able to basically, at least so far, keep things more or less under control, they had something like a 1/1,000,000% positivity rate. That's the order. And they maintained that for a month before really opening up. That's where we need to be. And that is where we are not right now. We can get there, but it would involve going out and essentially testing everybody, like a virus census. Yeah, so virus census 2020. If I was running for office, I guess that'd be my campaign slogan. I am not running for office because, yeah, that would not go well. But yeah, that's the idea. So no cases per 100,000. Yeah, no cases per million. You want about 1/1,000,000% of cases. So yeah, that's roughly the area that we want to be in, and we are not there yet. But eventually, maybe with enough work, we can do it. Yeah, it's definitely doable. It's just that nobody has really tried in the U.S. They have in other countries. They've had good results in other countries, but eventually, I think we'll wake up and do something about this instead of talking about it. Which we've talked about it a lot, yeah, and talking has not made it go away. Yeah, respiratory droplets, right? All right, so thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr. Ben.